welcome to another Creating with Gorilla Art. I am super excited today. We're going to be working on my favorite animal, and guess what it is? A gorilla! Look at how cute this gorilla is. First of all, he's purple. You have to admit, a purple gorilla is pretty cute. I added a bow tie, and we got him looking up here at this cute little ladybug on some flowers. This is a really fun project that we're doing today, and I can't wait to get started with you. So let's take a look at all our supplies. Ba-bam! We are going to need purple paint, white paint, that's it for colors as far as paint goes. Piece of chalk, we're going to draw it on with chalk. I've got washable markers, and I've got a Sharpie. And what I'm using today is this piece of wood. Let me show you the wood. It's very thin. It's a thin piece of wood. If you don't have wood, you can use paper to do this for sure. You can, I would use a thicker paper, or you can do it on canvas. I happen to really like the wood today because our paint is a little thinner, and I'm gonna show you a close up of our gorilla. Can you see? You can still see the wood grain. And I think that's really fun. I like to paint on different surfaces, and I just think it makes your art a little more interesting when you do it on things other than just the typical paper. But like I said, you can certainly use paper. You're also going to need a paintbrush. Let's see, I'm looking for a good one. I'm just going to be using a very simple paintbrush. It doesn't matter too much what kind of paintbrush you use in this case. Also, you're going to need a water bowl, and you're going to need something to put your paint on. I've got kind of a reused plate, and I didn't want it to look too messy for you on the camera, so I just put a piece of wax paper down. But you can use a regular plate. And before I pour the paint out, we're gonna get started drawing our gorilla. I like to draw the biggest thing on the paper, which would be, or on the surface I should say, which would be the gorilla. So always look for shapes when you're going to be taking an image, looking at an image, and you want to put it on something else. I always look for shapes. And this is a pretty big shape here. We got an oval for its mouth. Now, if I put my hand down, it's definitely bigger than the palm of my hand. It's not quite as big as my hand, but I have a feeling, since you guys have smaller fingers and hands than me, this would probably be about the size of your hand. So after you've made this, you need to test it by putting your hand down. Let's see. If I put my marker there, you can tell that it's almost to the end of my marker. Almost. So it's a good little thing to use other tools for measuring. Your hand, the marker. I'm going to come in, and I'm going to use a darker chalk because I don't think the white will pick up on here, but white chalk is just fine to use. So I'm going to start, and I'm just, see how I did that a couple of times? Because it's not perfect the first time. Sometimes people really struggle trying to do the perfect oval, and it's not supposed to be perfect. Let's do the marker test. That looks pretty close to how big my other one is. See how there's just a little left on the cap? Just a little left. Pretty good. Also notice that I did it at a slight angle. Do you see how it's kind of tilting up just a little bit? Now we're going to do the eyes. This is kind of like a big M. You see it? Hopefully it's showing up on camera. Kind of hard to see. Got my little I'm going to go ahead and just put in my eyes just so it feels a little more like a gorilla. See? And now the hair is kind of fun. Let's look at the hair again. He's got some wild and woolly looking hair there. So I'm going to come in. I'm going to make a little swoop. A little swoop. See how the swoop's starting to go in kind of this way? There we go. And now I'm going to come in like that, and I've got his little neck. You know, before we put everything in, he almost looks like Bart Simpson. Okay, so here's my bow tie. Kind of hanging off the edge over here. That's because he's turning slightly to the side. Come and do that. I'm not going to worry about the face or anything just yet because we'll paint that in a little later, okay? Even the ear. We're going to add that in a little later. Okay? And I'm going to go ahead and do the flower. Now this is important on where we put the flower because take a look at his eyes here. Okay, so his eyes are gazing to the I was gonna say a butterfly, the ladybug. So you need to have those eyes kind of following where that is. Otherwise, if his eyes were off, it would look like he was looking a different way. But do you notice how there's kind of a line, an invisible line right there? That's to give the illusion that he's looking at something. So when we draw our flower, we got to make sure that it lines up where his eyes are. So I'm going to draw, I'm not going to draw, I'm going to put my marker here and I'm going to put a dot. So this is a good way for you to do it. Line up your marker, okay, the very edge to his eye there. And this is probably a perfect spot of where your ladybug's gonna go. So I want to make sure that I get my ladybug in. And I'm just gonna put a circle. See, so now we've got that invisible imaginary line. And then from there, we got to put the petal of our flower. I don't normally do petals like this. I usually like to start in the middle, but because I wanted to make sure that the petal was under there, that's the way I did it. I usually start in the middle and then I do the petals coming out like this. You don't want 5 billion petals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's what I've got. I'm going to do a really long stem. And then I like to see a little bit of leaves. And then I'm going to do another flower. So I start in the middle, a little circle. And then my petals. And you don't want all the flowers the same. You want to have some interest in there. So making it interesting is when you have some different shapes. Or sizes rather, not shapes. Now I'll do a little baby one. Makes your painting look interesting when you have different sizes for your eyes to look at. And that's your flower, and there's your gorilla. So I'm gonna let you get caught up, and when you get all caught up, come back and see the next step. Back. So what we're gonna do now is we're going to trace this with chalk. You know, I'm looking at his eye here, and I feel like I wanna make that hairline a little closer. Yeah, I feel better about that. I'm going to start here and I'm just going to trace that line. All the way. I'm going to trace all the gorilla lines right now. Might be putting in some more later. Let's get his bow tie. Now notice on the bow tie, I didn't show this earlier, but I did a little loop right there. By doing a little loop like that, it makes it look three-dimensional, like it's popping out at you. I'm also going to do little circles because you know what? I want to add polka dots to it later. So I'm going to just go ahead and put my little circles for my polka dots. Okay. I've got him all colored in. I'm going to go ahead. No, actually, I'm going to wait till later. I was going to say go ahead and outline your ladybug, but I think we need to paint it a little later. So there you go. Go ahead and get caught up with your Sharpieing and then meet me back here. Okay, so I went ahead and I poured a little bit of purple and a little bit of white on my plate. And we're going to start with painting the whole outside, not the face part, the inner. We're going to do the outside in a dark purple. And I've got my brush here, and I always dip on the side of my paint, and I like to press it and drag it real close to lines. See, so I'm going to press it and I'm going to drag it. It gives a really crisp line, and then I'm going to fill it in. You really don't need a lot of paint, so don't over pour on your plate. You can always pour more. Now we got to get real close underneath here. I don't want to be careful not to paint on his bow tie. Get underneath here. Okay. Same thing up here. I'm going to start and I'm going to drag it. See how close I get to that line? And I'm not using much paint, because if you put too much on and you try to do this dragging technique, it might spread outside your line. It's better to put too little and then come back and have to put more on. And take your time. I find painting so relaxing. And painting on wood, I love it. I love it. And of course, painting a gorilla, I'm a happy girl. Painting on wood and painting a gorilla on wood. Here we go. Just trying to be very careful around my lines. See, I'm dragging it. And you know what? I'm going to drag it all along those outer lines as well. And there you go. Okay, so now we're going to paint the inside of our gorilla, inside his face. Let's take a look there. So do you notice that there's two colors happening here? Okay, this is called monochromatic, okay, because they're two colors. Well, they're one color, but it's like two different hues of one color, and that's what makes it monochromatic. Hues are like a shade or a tone. And this is definitely a tone lighter than this color, purple. And when you tone something, it means you're adding white to it. Now, I always like to start a new pile, so I'm going to put a little purple there. Okay. And then I'm going to dip in my white, but I don't want to ruin my white. Be very careful. I like to dip on the edge. See how I'm like scooping from the side and all of that's still good? And then I'm going to mix it up. So you definitely want it to be lighter. I feel pretty good. That's a lot less. That's kind of the original color, and then that's the light. So let me put this down now. And I am going to do the same method where I press and drag. Go back the other way. Get some more color. Press, drag, and I blend it in. Press and drag. I like to do the whole outside first. And don't worry, if you accidentally go over your black, I wouldn't worry about it at all, because you'll have a chance you can dry it and then go back over it with your Sharpie. Now notice that I'm not going crazy and wild. I am purposely going back and forth here to cover all the inside. Okay. I've had to mix some more purple in here. So what am I gonna do? I'm gonna press and drag, press and drag. Sometimes right around that part can be hard. Might accidentally cover that black, but like I said, no big deal. Now I'm not gonna worry too much about the eyes right now. In fact, look, you can still see, although with the white, you might not, the white chalk. But when you go back to add your eyes in later, remember that you wanna have that sight line. So I can tell you right now, I'm gonna have to go back over that with the chalk. It's not with the chalk Sharpie. That's okay. Now I want to add some texture and some little fur around here. So I'm going to take that same purple and I like to just press very gently. If I pressed hard, it would be a big fat line. And I'm also painting a certain direction. I'm painting the way hair would grow. Hair kind of grows out, and in this case, it's kind of going down. So when you paint, you want to press and then just drag down. And it can be going down in different directions because he's got wild and woolly hair. Or is it fur? He's got wild and woolly fur. It's going down maybe here, but I feel like that's going up. Up, 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 up. Like my crazy gorilla. So see how I didn't have a lot of paint on my brush either when I was doing this. It was just barely enough. I like that a lot. Okay, so now we are going to let that dry, and we're gonna skip over here and paint our flowers. I'm gonna clean my brush really good. And the way I do that is I dip it into the water 10 times and then I dry it really good. Okay, so my brush is super clean and I'm dipping it into the white. And I'm going to start at the tip of my brush, or excuse my petal, and I'm gonna press and drag it towards the center. Get a little more paint. Drag it towards the center. This is a very different, I always tell people to paint the way it grows. And I think flower petals are the exception. I like to start at the tip, press and drag. So what happens is you give this a pretty good press. We're gonna have to find that new sight line. You give it a pretty good press, and what happens is your brush spreads out like that, and it gives a nice little crisp line. I'm gonna do all my flower petals. I'm not using ton of paint, but I am re-dipping almost after every petal. And then when you get to the baby ones, you don't press as hard. any little holes or things I forgot. I'm gonna fill in. I might add just a tiny, come back over here. I did not add any more paint to my brush, but I thought with whatever was left on my brush, I was gonna add a little bit. So what it does is it just gives a little texture to his fur. Okay, so we got that in. Now I'm gonna dip the bottom of my paintbrush into the white, and I'm gonna come in here and just fill in these little polka dots. And I'm re-dipping each time into the paint. Dip, dip, dip. What are you guys gonna name your gorilla? I haven't figured out a name for this one. Might just call him Purple. Purple gorilla. Okay, so got all my white done. Feeling pretty good about that. And now I'm gonna clean my brush 10 times. I'm gonna let you get all caught up. And once you get your petals painted, get your little fur on, get all that on, come back, we'll start with the next step. Okay, welcome back. So I've got my brush totally clean and I wiped it dry. Don't want it to be wet at all. We're gonna come in and I'm just gonna do a chalk actually, just so I know I have the right shape and everything before I paint. And I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna do this little, his nostrils here. And it is at a slight angle. His whole face, if you notice where his eyes were, this whole mouth part, everything's kind of at an angle. I'm gonna do a line here, and then he's got a big smile. I'm gonna re-put his eyes in. I can see mine. If you can't see where your eyes were before, just remember that you need to have that sight line, okay? Move straight to your bug, your little ladybug. And he's got eyebrows, so might as well put that up. He's happy because he's looking at that ladybug. Okay, so I got that all in. I'm gonna come in with just the dark purple. And I like to press this too. Press, and then pull it to the center. Let's see. Now this part I'm not going to press hard at all because I don't want it too fat. I'm just going to do a line right there. A line there. Cute. He's got some furry eyebrows, so I'm going to just tap his little eyebrows in. See? Tap, tap, tap. And they're arched, and kind of arching them makes them look happy. I'm gonna try using the bottom of my brush. Yeah, that works. To put in his eyes. Just need a lot on there. And I just kind of tap it and then I do a oval motion. See how that eye is higher up than that eye? That's really important. Like I said, you want to follow that sight line. Okay, so we got that in. I think I'm gonna come in and put some dark hair again. Layer, layer, layer. Gives it texture, gives it movement. I just really like the way it makes it look. Like I said, he's got wild and woolly hair. Cute. Might come back and do another little coat over that. I'm not sure. But we will worry about that later. Okay, so I want you to get caught up. And once you get caught up with that part, go ahead and get a blow dryer and blow dry it really, really good. And then meet me back here for the next step. Okay, welcome back. So I blow dry it really well. And now I'm gonna take off that extra chalk that was right there. And I do think I'm going to take this time to come in and put the Sharpie in back, you know, where I accidentally painted over. Oh, that shotgun. So I feel like I accidentally got a little bit too much there. It's really important that you got this thoroughly dried, because you don't want to make the mistake of trying to do Sharpie on wet paint, or try to, worse yet, try to wipe off any extra chalk if your paint was wet. So make sure you dry it really well. I think I got that on, feeling good. Notice that I drew around this part his nostrils. I just wanted it to be a little darker there. Okay. So now we're going to come over here, we're going to jump on over here, and we're going to put in the stem. This is where you're going to use your washable marker. And I'm just going to draw it in. Color in the leaves. Leaves have a little point on them. Like that. Yep. Put that in there. And since I have the green out, I'm going to color this in here. So this just requires a little patience, because you got to go around your circles, your polka dots, I should say. If you have another color and you would rather have him have a bow tie of a different color, go right ahead. In fact, if you wanted to add other things, you could have done that. Be a girl gorilla. Be whatever you want it to be. A princess gorilla. A superhero gorilla. Okay, got this part done. Just taking my time. Okay. There, isn't that cute? Cute little bow tie. I'm gonna come in with the black Sharpie though, and I'm gonna go right over that green like this. You want to have it a little darker in this spot here, because kind of where there's a fold, you don't want it to have the same color. Like light would have trouble getting in there. Okay, so now I'm going to color the center parts of my flowers. Yellow. And we're going to add a little more around the flowers. Now mine are popping out because you see that blue chalk, but I imagine you might just have white chalk. So I really think we need to make it pop out a little bit, and I'm going to show you what I mean. Now if you look close, you can see that there's a little bit of purple going around those flowers. But I don't want you to make the mistake of having it too purple. So I'm going to take a tiny bit, just the teeniest little bit of purple, and I'm going to mix it in. You probably could barely even see. Let's see, I'm trying to get the light there. Do you see how it's turned purple? It's just supposed to be a smidge darker. I could maybe a little darker than what I did. And I'm only using the tip, the very tip of my brush. I'm not pressing hard. And I'm going to outline my flowers. If you have a smaller brush, you could use a smaller brush. I'm going to use a smaller brush. But as long as you don't press hard with the other one like I had is just fine. Doing the outline. And then I'm going to come in and do these little lines in the middle of my petals. Do all of them. I just think it makes it look kind of fun when you outline them. And who doesn't like fun? Speaking of fun, why doesn't the gorilla play poker in the jungle anymore? Because there's too many cheetahs. Here's my cheesy joke for the day. Okay, I'm outlining all of them. Okay, one last petal to do. And then I'm gonna do the inside, the lines like I told you. Getting close, getting close. Two last little things to do. Okay, before I forget, one little thing we gotta add is our gorilla ear. Almost forgot. So I'm taking the dark purple right about there. I'm gonna come in with the dark purple and just create a little ear. A little light, maybe to give a little texture inside there. That's it. Okay, we're gonna use the bottom of my paintbrush to come in here and add two little highlights in his eyes. Make it look fun. Okay. And then we gotta put that little ladybug in. Okay, so we're gonna have our sight line go. Right there is where our ladybug's gonna go. I'm just gonna draw it like that with a pencil, just to make sure I feel good about it. Coming back. Cute. Oh, his head's black, so let's get that all black. And take my red, fill it in. Ladybugs, they got a line. Oh, you know, it's still a little wet. I'm gonna blow dry this real good and I'll come back. Gonna dry now. Yep. And then little dots. You have little antennas there. Cute. So, doesn't it look like he's looking up there? There's our gorilla. I hope you had a great time. I did. And definitely subscribe to my channel because I'm posting things all the time on YouTube. Things that you can find around your house with materials, easy things. You don't want to miss out on them. And I don't want to miss out on your beautiful artwork. So make sure you send me a picture. You can Facebook me or have your parents find me on Instagram and hashtag it Gorilla Art Studio or hashtag Gorilla Art Gorilla. Ooh, I want to see it. I can't wait to catch you on the next Creating with Gorilla Art.